Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Going to go through SummerSlam 2020, giving my thoughts throughout the show, giving my review, and as well giving you the results. Starting off with the kickoff, not really much to say. Apollo Crews defeating MVP in the United States Championship match. And I've had a few matches now, always the same result. I was kind of glad this one moved to the kickoff. I didn't have as much investment in this as perhaps maybe you should do for a championship match at a big 4 pay-per-view. I really hope from here that maybe Lashley goes on to take Apollo Crews instead, and maybe MVP can go and push other members of the Hurt Business rather than actually being involved in the matches himself. Going on to the main show itself, and I'm going to talk about both women's matches at the same time, or women's championship matches, I should say, because we kicked off the show with Bayley and Asuka. I really liked the way this match was put together. It was quite a solid match between the two ladies, and the storytelling was done to perfection, really. It felt kind of a little bit after SmackDown, the direction that it should go as well. Bayley was not doing so well on SmackDown, so she picked up the victory here on the pay-per-view, escaped with the championship with help with Sasha Banks, and later on in the evening, well, would the roles be the same? We'd have to wait and see. We got an interview with the two ladies in the back. Bayley had a broom saying it would be a clean sweep, but of course we went back to the match later on, and of course Sasha Banks needed the help. Bayley didn't give it as well as she could have done. Asuka seemed to be too smart for it the second time round and managed to win the Raw Women's Championship with the Asuka lock. For me personally, I thought the matches were both okay. I enjoyed the Sasha Banks match more of the two. No, I think this was good storytelling overall. Despite the fact maybe you could perhaps predict a lot of the direction of where it was going, I still think it was very successful and look forward to seeing what it's going to play out from here. Seems to be some dissension really starting now with Sasha Banks and Bayley. Maybe we are going to get the direction with these two feuding after all. And as well as that, I mean, we look and see as well with the likes of Asuka. Now she's Raw Women's Champion again. Maybe a program with Shayna Baszler is on the way. But of course, those Women's Tag Team Championships need to be defended this Sunday at Payback. Will it be Asuka and Baszler, who are unlikely partners, going against Bayley and Sasha Banks? We'll have to see on Raw this evening. Next, we had the Tag Team Championships from the Raw side, where the Street Profits taking on Angel Garza and Andrade. The match was okay. I mean, I didn't mind the match itself, but what I would say is it kind of felt a bit pointless. Montez Ford had already got some revenge here, so I felt that the right decision would have been to have put the belts really on the heels here. But it seems once again dissension had caused problems with this trio here. Zelina Vega getting onto the ring apron and she was knocked off. Andrade went to go and look after her. Angel Garza went to go and make the tag. Nobody was there. And then the Street Profits went on to retain, of course, a sort of a sky high, if you want, from Angelo Dawkins. And then we saw a reverse in the air frog splash from Montez Ford, which looked really cool, by the way. I really like the way he's adapted his finisher to look like this. I hope he continues with this going forward. And the Street Profits remain your Raw Tag Team Champions. It'll be interesting to see where they are going to go next. Next, we had Mandy Rose against Sonya Deville. No longer hair versus hair. It was a no DQ match, and of course, the loser was to leave WWE. After the week these two ladies have had, it must have been very, very stressful. But they went out there, they put on a show, and you have to applaud them for that. Mandy Rose did pick up the victory there, so Sonya Deville is leaving WWE for the time being, obviously being written off for the time being. Hopefully she'll be back in the not too distant future, however they decide to write her back in. But Mandy Rose is your victor there, and I must admit, some questionable caterpillars after the match. She tried to copy Otis as he came out. For me, I did feel there was a bit of disconnect. I mean, this has been one of the best built feuds of the year. Perhaps she can breathe a sigh of relief now, but after all that personal animosity between the two on screen, I would have preferred perhaps a more serious finish at the end of the match. But that's just me from a personal preference. Next, we had Seth Rollins against Dominik Mysterio in a street fight. Dominik Mysterio, of course, had some moments with both his mum and, of course, his father, Rey Mysterio, throughout the night. And he had asked Rey Mysterio, Dominik, to not interfere into the match. And it played into the storytelling here. A very storyline-driven match. It almost felt in places more like an angle than a match itself. I think Dominik played his part really well. We need to say that early. From what he was directed to do, I think that he did well. But I would say that I felt this match was quite overbooked. A lot of the fact that Seth Rollins sort of dominated a lot of the match, where you thought perhaps Dominik would be going for retribution. Interesting word to use there. We'll touch on that group later in the video. But Seth Rollins, of course, was quite dominant in the match, trying to goat Rey Mysterio to get involved. In the end, Murphy was getting involved as well, and Rey Mysterio was still reluctant. It took for, Dominik's mum to come onto the stage, and then obviously Rey went up there, and then eventually he was to get involved once he saw that the eye trick with the steps was going to be done again by Murphy onto Dominik, and that finally got him involved. We saw handcuffs where Rey Mysterio was handcuffed to the ring rope, and he could only watch what was going on. Dominik made the save as Seth went towards the back, towards where his mum was, and he brought him back into the ring. We saw a 619, which was done quite nice and tastefully as well. I thought, as I say, Dominik Mysterio played his role quite well, but he was beaten quite badly throughout a lot of the match. It kind of made really to show he was a rookie, which I suppose really you could say is realistic, but at the same time I would have liked him to have got more offense and perhaps Seth being more of a cowardly heel here. In the end, we saw pretty much, Rey Mysterio begging for mercy here, hoping that Seth would just end the match nice and sweetly. He had to watch Dominik be curb stomped for the 1, 2, 3. I think the match delivered a strong message, but I would say that this match was slightly long. It was 20 minutes. I do feel that the second half of the match you could argue was better than the first half, but at the same time, I do think it was a bit lengthy for my taste. We've touched on both women's matches, so next week we'll look at the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre against Randy Orton. Old school match this felt, a nice solid booking between the two here. It seemed to be the battle of the Claymore and the RKO, and neither were hit through the match, which I thought was quite nicely done. We saw a figure 4 leg lock, which was quite tasteful as well, and the tribute to Ric Flair from Drew McIntyre onto Randy Orton. Both bled, looked to be a couple of spots there where both were bleeding the hard way as well. It seemed quite indecisive, and of course this was decided by a backslide for Drew McIntyre to pick up the victory. Does make you think that there must be a rematch or two in the future here. If you're into old school wrestling matches, then this will be up your street. If you're into more like the new high flying, throw everything to the wall, then perhaps this match wasn't your taste. For me, I felt it was good. I was expecting something a bit more decisive, seeing as it was SummerSlam, but it felt like this was almost like an appetizer for what is to come in perhaps the future months. And like we know, Payback is coming this Sunday, so even though perhaps you wouldn't say Payback is needed in this match, I would turn around and say that perhaps, just perhaps, we will get a rematch with these two. I think in an alternative, Retribution were not on the show, and I did say I would mention them. I think this is the place to mention them. I think perhaps you could have had them involved in this match, perhaps destroying it, making us need Payback with that in some way. But Retribution were not on the show at all, which made me feel a bit disappointed, just purely because they've been invading Raw and SmackDown continuously every single week, and we didn't get that here. So for me, I did think that was a bit of a shame that they weren't involved in the show in some way, because we still don't know their message, and that's something I was hoping we were going to get from this show. And they said you'll never see it coming. Well, when we got a backslide, no RKO, no Claymore, and also no Retribution, I kind of thought to myself, let's hope that wasn't what it was. You know what I mean? Keith Lee, though, something I definitely didn't see coming, was actually announced he's going to be on Raw tomorrow. I'm really excited about that. If you've been watching my videos before, you'll know I'm a big fan of his and been crying out for him to be on Raw and SmackDown for a long time. Did I want him on SmackDown more? Yes, but you know what? I can see a place for him on Raw. I can see him in that United States Championship picture. Let's get Lashley to win the belt off Apollo, and let's get Bobby Lashley against Keith Lee. Sounds like money, doesn't it? Sounds like a great match, and I'm going to call it now. Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar at next year's WrestleMania. I'm going to call that now because Brock Lesnar has been wrestling on the Raw side, and when he does return eventually, which I predict in the moment probably won't be till WrestleMania next year, I think that is the match that they might go with. Last but not least, we've got the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, of course, challenging for the Universal Championship against the champion Braun Strowman. This match was a Falls Count Anywhere match, which I must admit, complete surprise to me. I missed the social media post on that one there. But to be honest, I thought the match started off quite well. I liked the fact it went towards the back area. I liked the Sipstar Abigail's in the gorilla position. And then it went back to the ring, and it kind of got a bit of a weird finish, I must admit. Braun Strowman going to the toolbox, picked out a knife, and which was to come in and just pretty much cut up the ring. He seemed to spend ages doing it, which I just kind of thought to myself, you've got the Fiend down, pick up the 1, 2, 3, and just beat the guy. If you want to use, remove the mat and use some wood, get a table out or something. But seemed to take an eternity, this bit for me, when it kind of really played in to make Braun look really stupid, because once he turned around, he literally just was annihilated by Bray Wyatt and hit on this wood area with, it looked like a uranagi first off, and then it looked to be, was at least one Sister Abigail, perhaps two, and it picked up the victory for the Fiend, and he's the brand new Universal Champion. It's the right result, but it's a disappointing finish to SummerSlam. I really felt that we could have saw more from these two, to be honest. I would have much preferred to see, a lot more of the toys used here, and these two just completely destroy each other across the ring. It was quite nice to see the Fiend, though, selling some moves. You don't see that so often on WWE shows, and I think he needs to do that more often, just to give a slightly more human feel to him, because then that way when he does lose again, it's not going to be seen so bad from the community of wrestling, because I think that's the problem at the moment with The Fiend. He seems so protected a lot of the time. It just feels as soon as he loses, he's going to lose all that mystique. It's happened once with Goldberg. It could happen next with a returning Roman Reigns. That's right, Reigns is the one we didn't see coming. Now, if you watched earlier in the evening, there was an advert, and Roman Reigns was featured in that advert as well for the community stuff that the WWE like to do. Could have really have seen that coming, really, from when you saw it earlier in the evening, but I didn't really twig two and two together. I just kind of thought to myself, oh, Reigns is featured on that. Maybe he might return soon. I had no idea that in my head that he'd actually return later that evening, but the way he returned for me was fantastic, because you almost felt like it was almost like a heel-style Roman Reigns, certainly more serious, certainly a lot more smack talk. The best sort of lines I've heard Roman Reigns ever say, it felt. I mean, when he come into the ring there and attacked The Fiend, says you're just a freak in the mask. With Braun Strowman outside, you're only a monster because I made you a monster. And Roman Reigns standing tall, holding the Universal Championship above his head when The Fiend had just won it. And The Fiend had sold again, which again I think is a good thing here. I think The Fiend needs to start selling moves. And it just kind of felt to myself that perhaps maybe this isn't something we saw coming. We've got Payback next week, which maybe you feel is kind of too soon. We could have had a bit of time to build up for some sort of rivalry here. But I kind of feel in the back of my head maybe we are going to get a triple threat match next week. And we could get the Universal Championship. We could get Roman Reigns thrown straight in the deep end, challenging, going for it against The Fiend. Braun Strowman also in the match. Maybe Braun Strowman will probably lose in that match. The Fiend will retain, and we could get The Fiend versus Roman Reigns. And I imagine we're probably going to push on with that, because the draft is going to come up, and maybe, just maybe, these two are going to be separated. Maybe WWE feel the time is now with this match, and that's why it's not going to be happening at a WrestleMania, if you want, instead. But overall, I'm really happy with Roman Reigns' return. I mean, I think it really adds some strength into the SmackDown main event scene, something that's been sort of lacking for quite a while. In fact, since he's left, really. It feels like we just had Braun and The Fiend at the top end, really. Now Reigns is back. And AJ Styles lost the IC title as well, former WWE champion. Kind of feels like that main event area is really starting to spice up on SmackDown. I can see some great programs going in for the rest of the year. Really, Roman Reigns' return makes me quite excited to watch the blue brand coming up from this Friday onwards. So I'm excited to see what we're going to get with Payback. Looking at Payback, like I said, the triple threat match potentially. Women's Tag Team Championships, we should hopefully know on Raw this evening. I expect, as I said earlier in the video as well, we could get Lashley go after Apollo, and perhaps Drew versus Orton again. So the card looks like it could be shaping up if that's the direction they decide to go in. It'll be interesting if there's a big angle this evening. I do know Kevin Owens, of course, was on the show. Should have mentioned he was on the commentary table during the Street Profits Tag Team Championship win. He said he was going to have Aleister Black on Raw, returning Aleister Black this evening. Be interested to see if that kicks off a feud between them two. Is Aleister Black going to have a different character? Lots of things interesting to look forward to as well. So I'm looking forward to checking out Raw this evening, seeing what they're going to bring to the table, if you will. I will be back later in the week with another video. This Week in Wrestling will be coming with me and George. Of course, as well, Payback predictions will be coming up, and I'm going to do them on Saturday this week because, of course, with Friday Night SmackDown, I want to make sure I've got all the matches together to give you a proper video for predictions for this. And hopefully I'll give you a review next Monday of the pay-per-view. And as well, Ask SCW will be back on Sunday as well. So lots to keep an eye out for the channel for. Please subscribe, please like and share with a friend. Overall, SummerSlam out of 10. Maybe let's give it, I was thinking 6.5, but let's give it a 7 out of 10. I think a 7 is a nice number to give it out. Let me know your thoughts of the event in the comments below, your reactions, your review, your rating out of 10. I'd love to know, and I'd love to interact, and I want to talk wrestling with you guys. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on SCW. Take care, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed SummerSlam 2020.